Jimmy, I think we're streaming. How do I unmute you? I've muted you. Oh, you have to unmute.
Unmute.
There you go. There you go. Perfect.
Am I back on?
muted you in the hopes of having you avoid the usual Hewlett chaos of setting up. Do you want to go to Twitch and TechBanditry, and then you can see the chat as well? Because stuff will pop up. Or I can just manage that if you're not, as great a multitasker as I am.
No, that goes without saying, David.
Yeah,
I'm
mean,
not.
multitasking is my middle name. What was I saying? All right, let me do that. Because it looks like I'm going to be looking at you. So I figure I should probably be looking at you. Jimmy, what do you think? Isn't it a professional setup?
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's actually really... If you actually think about what we're doing...
I try not to.
Well, see, because I was hoping you might know, because I don't.
I get great joy out of the fact I do Tech Talk with Barnacles, who is a Microsoft programmer. Like, he's literally responsible for Windows in some cases, and he has technical issues doing this stuff. So
How could you not?
I know. How could you not? It's true.
Like, seriously, I mean, like, just the concept of Wi-Fi. Just like stop and think about that.
Yeah. It's magic, Jimmy.
Yeah, it is. It's digital magic.
Make the magic box go. That is a Jimmy Key quote. Make the magic box go. I use that all the time around here. That, my friends, is a James Key or Crowscratch. A Crowscratch quote. All right, let's see if I can get some chat in here. We can see what's going on.
You should be.
I should be streaming.
No.
This is the stream. I hate to disappoint you, Jimmy.
I'm gonna put my phone on airplane.
They can't see anything. That's always a good sign, isn't it?
They can't see anything?
They can't see anything, yeah. So why don't we do this? Would that help? Let me just go to this and I can have a look and see what's going on. So there you go. At least we've been spared that, Jimmy. They haven't had to look at us while we staggered around doing this. And by we, I mean me.
You.
All right, let's go to the video and see what's going on. I don't want a special upgrade, thank you very much. But thank you. All right, which one is it? Is this one? Nope. Is it this one? Nope. It's up there, isn't it? Don't I have to do something up here? Hang on a sec. I can't really see the source, so let's see if I can do that. I've got camera 1, camera 3 on. How does that look? I don't see anything changing. That's kind of odd. Oh, there you go. Okay, so that's what I want, because then I'm going to go to zoom. Hello, zooming. Let's make sure this is going to work. Here we go. I see zoom coming up. I'm a little behind. Look at that. We have a stream. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, beautiful opening. Some people have these beautiful montages, and my son has a better opening than I do. He's got animations and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, I've got, if I click here, why isn't it working? So that's basically how I approach this stuff.
What happens if I press the... Oh, that was wrong.
Oh, dear. Hello, everybody.
Oh,
Watch me dance. Yeah. Haven't done the dancing yet, Jimmy. It'll happen.
Wow. It's in our genes.
So, James, just as a warning, I've got this cup of coffee, and I actually brought a little thermos because I knew that we had a lot of talking to do.
All right.
So, just want to check. It's a little laggy, but hello. I think because it's going through Zoom, maybe it's lagging a little bit, but let me just double check, make sure there's nothing else I can do here. In fact, what if I quit that, close that window, just to make sure there's nothing else running. We don't want Twitch running. Close that window. I think that's basically everything I can shut down at this point. I guess I don't need Spotify playing anything right now. Okay, so change the name of the thing. Baz, could you do that? Baz is already on here giving me notes, just so you know.
Hey, Baz.
I'll tell you, though, that's quite an honor, though. My son is giving up his lunchtime to listen to you. Or as the
Better
case may
make it
be,
worth
listen to
this-
me because I'm doing all the talking. All right. So here's the deal. Everyone, we've got good. I kind of did. Thanks, Cal. So Cal is our amazing mod, and she is what I call the hammer. So if the things get out of line, even sometimes when they don't get out of line, she just brings the hammer down and just, that's it. Takes people out. It's pretty cool to watch. So this is the inaugural writing Bandits. And really, I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to about this because we kind of geek out about this all the time ourselves, right? And I feel like I've watched you as an actor. I've seen you, like, I've talked to you about running television shows and coming up with Nickelodeon things and working at writers' rooms. And you share this sort of excitement about the whole self-publishing, entrepreneurial approach to stuff. And I just thought, who better to talk to people about writing than someone who's done like every freaking kind of it known to man.
Yeah.
And
who better than someone who has no focus at all? Just, I'm running here, running there.
to be fair, I think there may be some similarities between us on that. I'm not exactly positive, but yeah, we're not terribly good at staying on topic. It's true.
Yeah.
But maybe, I actually wrote some questions down. Yeah, squirrel.
Okay.
That's why I have the squirrel cam. I have the GoPro squirrel cam because of all the squirreling that I do. So I guess the first thing that I have here is really just the wrong phone. Too many phones. Squirrel. See? Told you. It's very, very official, all this. So the first thing I was going to say is, could you just give me like a little backstory? Like give people an understanding of how you made the move into writing, when you decided to do that, or when it was thrust upon you, whatever your take on that is. Because we met originally when we were actors.
Yeah. Yeah. We met in the late 80s.
The 1880s. It was an amazing
The
time,
1880s.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that Queen Vicky. Nothing
We had a
like
lot
her.
of hair between us.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was 50% hair back then.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Now it's in my ears and
Yeah.
elsewhere.
I substituted intelligence and knowledge for hair. Basically, I think. It was a horrible trade. I would never make it again.
No, you got something out of it. I got zip. I gave it all up for nothing.
To be fair, Jimmy shaves his head. That's not, that's not required,
I came up to Toronto from, one of us bothered to go to theater school and but one of us worked more, which was kind of ironic because I spent a lot of money on theater school. But I came up here and I guess Keanu had just left.
Don't know him. Who's that? Keanu,
But
how do you spell that?
There was a void in the guy who got all the work, and David filled that. You filled it. And it was, because I remember like going, the first summer I was here, I was like going, Pen, yeah, that's mine. This baby, I own
Pin.
this.
That was a good, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next one was like Scanners 2. And I was like, oh.
Not such a good one. I think you may have dodged a bullet on that one.
But you got all the work. Like you were the guy. Like I remember, actors.
Work
going, "Who's
breeds
this?"
work, though. I mean, you get one job and then you're in the mix for a bit and then you drop out again. You've been through this.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah. But it was kind of funny that and I remember like one actor going, who shall remain nameless, who's this David Hewlett guy? I hear he's the man to beat. And I'm like, actually, he's a really nice guy. He's, a little slouchy, a little cool. Hey, what's up?
I was trying so hard. I'm like so embarrassed of myself back then because I did want to be Keanu. Like I just wanted to be him so badly, but I'm the absolute opposite of him in every way. Like there is nothing zen about me at all. There's nothing laid back about me. And I fought so hard for so long to be that guy.
Yeah.
And
you were good at it. You put up a good front because I thought it wasn't until we started hanging out with Andrew Miller and with
another writer we should talk to. Actually.
Another writer, former actor from Cube and Nothing with You. And we started hanging out together. And I remember one time we were talking about, or having a beer, and you started talking about quantum physics and quarks and quasars.
I didn't
and
understand it.
neutrinos.
I just started talking about
But I was like, wait, he's a geek. Oh my gosh.
I remember another actor. There was Justin Lewis, who has become someone else now.
Louis
Ferrara from SGU.
Stargate. Yeah.
Who I met at a bar once or a party or something. And he looked at me, he goes like, you are a nerd. Like I just was, yeah, but I was fighting it the whole time, which I think, like, my lesson to everyone is just like, give up and just be who you be who you are. Cause like, you just, there's nothing worse than trying to be something that you're not.
I think also though, that is part of your 20s. That's definitely part of the journey. I remember you, cause it was when I was a kid, it was not cool to read comic books, especially if you wanted to date, like, forget it.
If you stood a chance with the female sex. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you were the one, it's when we started hanging out, who said, oh, you got to check out Sandman.
Yeah.
And
I was probably doing Keanu too.
You got to check out Sandman, man. Dude. Awesome. Totally.
It's the most excellent Sandman.
But anyway, so we, and that like reignited a lifelong passion of mine, For
me.
Well, no, yeah, from you. Well, no, but seriously, that was like, I think I was in my late 20s and I was like, no, I am a man who reads comic books.
Right. I got into them. I think it was Swamp Thing was strangely romantic during high school.
Beautiful.
And
Alan Moore. That was the start of the whole graphic novels as literature.
Yeah. Well, it's when they truly, to me, sort of became, from the story became elevated. Like the art had already elevated, but the stories hadn't sort of followed suit. They were all a bit sort of like gumshoe. I'll get ya, and then they became, am I wrong? Did I miss something in there?
No.
Yeah. I'm allowed to be wrong. I'm wrong a lot on this thing. The kids tell me, TechBandits all the time, I'm wrong.
For American comic books, it was new. The French and Belgian had been doing it for a long time.
Oh, that's true. All right, I didn't even think of that. That's true.
Yeah. So and to a degree, the Brits, they were all British, like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, what's his name, Grant Morrison, and all. Like, they were the ones who sort of ushered in this whole sea change in terms of, and they made it, adult friendly, and it took another couple decades, but all of a sudden comic books were super cool and sophisticated, to a degree. Well, and then there was this one, Mouse, which
Mouse, yeah, fantastic. It's basically about Auschwitz, but done with mice, right?
Mice.
Or was it just I can't remember now, so long ago.
The cats were Nazis, and the mice were the
which Jewish. I got to say is not far off, because I'd never liked cats. Even having had a lot of cats, I'm not a big fan of cats. I could see them turning pretty quickly on everybody.
I thought you were going to go with, I don't like Nazis. I
don't like Nazis. Well, to be fair, I don't like them either. So there you go. Dude, it's like, does that need to be said? I felt like that, I guess it does nowadays, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, how I got into writing was I moved to LA and suddenly had a lot of downtime. And,
it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was Andrew Miller, again, our friend Andrew.
Yeah.
Sort of became, even though he's younger than me, became sort of my writer mentor.
He's everyone's mentor.
But you guys have been writing scripts for quite some time. Like you wrote a couple of really great scripts, Batkind and Nightshade. What was it?
Yeah, Deadly and Nightshade. I loved that. That was sort of before really the sort of the superheroes gone wrong thing. We were sort of toying with that stuff, but Andrew did all the work. I mean, I did a lot of talking and smoking.
and looking cool.
Yeah, a lot of that. A lot of leather jackets and motorcycles.
Yeah. But anyway, I, like most actors, got into it to create vehicles for myself. Like the first thing I was working on was sort of like an Inspector Clouseau of the Mounties. Right. So I did a lot of physical comedy and stuff, and I'd done...
Which Jimmy is very good at, I might add.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, in the old days before the knees went out, but
I just remember this Charlie Chaplin thing you used to do at the end of the night. The bars would be empty and Jimmy would be dancing with a broom in the corner because no one would
with a
actually go home.
sprained ankle.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the test of dedication. But anyway, I fell in love with the actual process of world building and peopling the world with characters and conflict. And pretty soon I started to write for Not Me. And then
So when you were writing stuff for yourself, what sort of stuff? I mean, did you feel it was good, or did you feel like it was purely just a purely vehicle?
I was lucky that it got positive responses.
What was the first thing you wrote? That was the Inspector Clouseau thing?
No, it was called Diego. It was a low budget. A director, Jeff Wilno, said, "Hey, do you want to do a low budget film? I've got a producer," and blah blah blah. So I wrote essentially like everyone was writing these, hip crime dramas, and I was no different. You see Reservoir Dogs 30 times, and
Right.
It was all that was of the era. So it was like a good dialogue in a sort of B movie plot.
Right. The worst thing that ever happened to writing, I think, was Tarantino, because now everybody just writes stream of consciousness.
Well, the worst thing what happened is that he had worked in a video store. So every employee at Blockbuster in Los Angeles thought that they were, the next Tarantino, and you'd get dissertations on films when you
within films.
Yeah, I just want to rent DuckTales. Like, is that a problem?
Right.
Is that going to be difficult?
Well, that was Kevin Smith. It's like,
yeah,
he's got that strangely generic name that I never get right. With Clerks, same thing. He worked in a video store. It was like the Genesis story for all these writers.
Yeah.
And they were picking up these spec scripts too, weren't they?
Oh yeah, I knew guys who were getting, Miramax was picking them up, their scripts and stuff. And they were like unemployed actors who wrote a heist movie. So that was my first one. That never got produced. And then I started writing stuff for myself. And then pretty soon after, I decided to write, the Great American Screenplay.
Nice.
Set in the post Civil War, during the Reconstruction of America, and obviously involving, the emancipation and Jim Crow laws and all that stuff. And it was a dud. It was like 3 years of research, and for nothing. It's like it's. And somebody said to me, a manager, a producer said to me, "Yeah, no one's going to make this.
Right.
You should probably write it as a novel." And that was sort of the first time people were going, maybe you should be writing books. And I was like, oh, really? I'm a screenwriter, sir. I took it as a challenge as opposed to leaning into it. And so
good advice. I find I ignore it for at least a year before I finally find it for myself. Wait a second.
I can do it for 10. I can do a decade of ignoring good advice.
Right.
But I really am an accidental author because how I started writing books was I was here and I was sort of kind of getting established, and I was thinking, what would I like to write? Like, what do I really want to do? And that's one of the things that I would like to bring up later on. Of you really have to write what interests you, what you love, because otherwise it's too hard. It's just way too hard unless you're really engaged. And I love scaring children. I don't know why. It's
not just children, but yeah,
but adults too. But if I can just frighten one child, then my work here is done.
But you must have grown up with the same kind of stuff that I did, with all the Ray Bradbury shorts and the Stephen King shorts and all. Like, I loved that stuff.
Yeah.
The
Plus,
Penguin book of ghost stories, like.
Oh yeah. Also, I also loved horror comic books. I loved like the DC, The Witching Hour, House of Mystery, House of Secrets.
Right.
And then later on, I loved the Warren ones, Creepy and Eerie. And that's kind of how Crowscratch came about. Is that homage? They always had somebody introducing comics,
Right.
the stories. And
The
I like
Crypt
anthologies. Yeah, exactly. And I like anthologies. I love short stories. So yeah, I was thought I'd had some real success with one of the I did a franchise of movies on Nickelodeon called Roxy Hunter Mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
and
Which we saw, I think, the first one off and just freaking loved it.
oh, that's yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's sweet. Yeah, yeah, you know,
The kid was
the one
young enough not to be a teenager about it, so he was like, yeah. As opposed to like, oh,
oh, that's
whatever.
now he's too cool. He's
Nice.
cooler than both of us put
He's-
together.
I know, I
Like,
know. So forget. Don't. He might be on here. Don't say that.
I know. I am Iron Ham.
Exactly.
So I I thought I'd love to do like the Roxy Hunter that I loved was Roxy Hunter and the Horrific Halloween,
Right.
and it was a kind of a show that a parent could watch with their child and enjoy. I like
Right.
family entertainment. I At the time Nickelodeon was doing very kid centric stuff, like it was all about kids, and it wasn't all that entertaining for me to watch them. So I wanted to do something, and they went along with it, and we did 4 movies. But I really love the spooky with the funny,
Mm.
you know, a bit of humor, a bit of horror, a bit of heart. Like
Right.
that's really what
Yeah.
I enjoy doing. And so I thought,
Fright
well, I'd love
Night.
to do, yeah, I'd love to do that in a TV anthology series, like a Goosebumps or an Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Mm.
And then I realized I would have to come up with the source material because I couldn't just write the pilot, you know, of an anthology. You can't just write the first episode of an anthology series. So I realized I had to bite the bullet and write a book.
Right.
And in doing so, I have to admit, it's really weird to be in your 50s and discovering the thing that you love. Like it's
Right.
amazing.
Right.
It's not that I don't love screenwriting or, you know, used to love acting and stuff. I love doing this. It's hard. It's so time consuming. It's all absorbing. It's you really have to fight to cut out a bit of life for yourself outside of authoring books. But ultimately that challenge has been really thrilling, daunting, frustrating. But there's nothing like having a direct connection with a readership.
Right.
It's, you know, when you're a screenwriter, you're one cog in a big machine. I mean, you're an important cog, especially at the beginning. But ultimately, you know, you do the thing, come up with a thing that attracts the producers and then the director and the network and the studio. But eventually, other people are far more important than you. And you wind up kind of becoming like a court stenographer where sometimes, you know, and it's very rare that what you envisioned and what you initially wrote winds up being what's, you know, on the screen.
So step back for a second. What is, let's say, the difference between writing a film and like TV? Is there a big difference between those two? Look, when you're writing the Roxy Hunter, you're writing.
Yeah, ideally, there are components that are always the same. They're the same for any writing, which is that, you know, this is the formula for writing, is that you get a compelling character, give them strengths and weaknesses. Then you set that character in an interesting world full of, you know, challenges. And then you give them an indomitable challenge or nemesis or journey or quest or whatever that they don't have a chance in heck of ever achieving. So that's the formula. And that's pretty much it for either the season of a TV series or a movie.
Right.
The duration of a film.
Did you prefer film over TV or vice versa?
I like TV. I like them both. I like TV because when you're writing a pilot, you can keep it kind of open-ended. You're trying to construct with a TV is the engine of the show. You have to, because there's got to be a reason why somebody's going to tune in next week.
Right.
So even if it's a show about, you know, a guy solving crime with a talking car, there's got to be something to the world that will compel you to tune in next week, other than watching David Hasselhoff talk to a car
in tight jeans. Let's not forget
jeans.
that.
And that hair,
my God,
magical hat.
My God, I wanted that car. We can have that car now. It's like a car that talks to you now, be like, whatever. It backs up for you. The kit didn't even back up for you.
No. Now it's like, quiet, car, quiet.
Yes, shut up, quiet. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, like a TV pilot, you're setting up the world, you're setting up the conflict and the long-term conflict, and you're giving them a taste of what each episode is going to be. If it's a procedural, you solve a crime. If it's a drama, you set up all the essential ingredients that are going to drive the show forward week after week. A film is a set piece.
What do you mean by that?
It is a beginning, middle, and an end.
Right. Okay.
And if you do it well, you got to figure out a way to do a sequel. Because if you've stuck the landing, if you've done a perfect ending, so how do I do the sequel?
The end? Please?
Well, that's always the cheap con, is the end with a question mark.
Yeah. But that's basically how everything's written now. Everything's written with the idea of it becoming a franchise, it seems.
Well, it's because there's not a lot of original source material anymore. It's all sequels and comic books and sequels and remakes.
And why is that? Why has that changed so much? Because it used to be so much just completely new stuff popping up all the time back when we were growing up.
Well, that's one of the reasons I came back to Canada from LA, is because spec writing, what you're talking about, is the original screenplay. Like, a 25-year-old Shane Black writes a cop buddy action thing called Lethal Weapon. And it sells for like $1 million and launches a franchise.
So basically selling a script, crazy idea, based on the script. Someone likes the script, but they buy the script.
Yeah, but that no longer exists, because what happened is, after the writer's strike, studios bulked up on all the source material, they optioned novels and European TV or films or whatever, Japanese films. Like, they just gathered everything, hoarded all the stuff, and there stopped being original spec material. It just stopped. It ended. The spec world was dying when I moved down there, but it was dead after the writer's strike. And but we didn't know that.
Perfect for actors too. There were a lot of actors I saw that did this, who found those vehicles, got the script to the right people at the right time, and sold. Like, it appealed to everybody. It had this kind of lottery-like feel to it, where it's like, if I just go to the right bar at the right time and pitch my ideas, someone's going to give me $1 million and I'm set.
Yeah, and that happened.
Well, that was that was Good Will Hunting too, right? Again, Miramax. Miramax did a lot of that.
Remember, Joel Wyman wrote The Mexican. Yeah,
that's right. Who then went on to do he really pisses me off, because he's freaking talented. He's a really good writer.
Really good. He's also a really smart businessman.
Yeah.
Because he wrote the spec.
But he's also really attractive too, which just ticks me off.
Yeah,
like, come on.
Yeah, and he's still attractive.
I know.
He's aged well.
Yeah. Like us, really.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. No, don't see him on the interwebs, do we?
He took, if I get this right, if I remember the story right, he took The Mexican, which was a spec script, to, I think it was Brad Pitt's company, Plan B, and they said, yeah, we'll buy it for $600,000. And then he said, well, hang on a second. The two stars who've not done a film together are Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts. So he took it to Julia Roberts' company and said, Brad Pitt wants to do this movie. Now, again, he was I think he'd produced one movie in Canada.
He'd done his own feature, I think.
Yeah, he directed a feature, but he was still a young unknown. So he goes to Julia Roberts' company and says, Brad Pitt wants to do this movie, and do you want to produce it with me? And he wound up getting a cut of the box office.
Wow.
That was the negotiation, because he had leverage. And that was a pretty smart, cagey, canny thing to do. Like, that was very clever. And he made a lot of money, because that was, wasn't the best film, was a young Gore Verbinski directed.
The script was better than
the script was really
film.
good.
Yeah, the script there was some wonderful stuff in it, and then for some reason it just in the presentation it sort of fell a bit flat. But I remember that.
The writing in the script was cocky and breezy and just really enjoyable. It was a young, good-looking, smart guy strutting his stuff and enjoying.
Well, and he'd done a bunch of TV stuff. Cool, hip rock band shows and stuff. And I think he very well sort of pivoted into that writing world. And I heard a story about him in this Bowie movie. Remember he had that Bowie? There was a movie about a kid dying of cancer or something. It was this fantasy thing. And David Bowie got sent a copy. He said, I will agree. You do a better Bowie than me, but I would agree to do. No, I think when Keanu again.
It's like this. He sort of talks like this.
Yes. So I'll do this movie.
It's really quite extraordinary, really.
But he said he would do it as long as they didn't touch a word. They didn't change a word.
Wow.
Yeah. And
good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. But so again, his writing shone through on this stuff. I guess. So that leads you to one of my questions. Actually, do you think acting is a benefit or a disadvantage moving into writing? Are there skills that cross over? Are there things that
huge?
Disadvantages or advantages?
Advantages, I think, and maybe I'm biased, but because I've been in a writer's room on a series,
right,
and kind of have been stunned at the way none of the writers are tracking the characters and the consistency of the characters, and they're bending characters to facilitate story,
right,
which is lazy.
And always feels forced to me.
But as an actor, as someone who's been on series, I have been that guy who said, my character would not do this.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's like, and the writer's like, no, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's lazy. Like you're gonna have to come up with a better way, or I'll come up with a way. I mean, I have done that, and like rewritten the script on the fly while we're shooting.
My favorite one is when someone important dies and you go, oh God, and then you go off and deal with something else. And it seems to always, no one ever wants to deal with that part where people go like, his dad just died. Would he really run off and,
yeah. That's what I mean. The emotional and logical consistency of the characters.
Easy for you to say.
Wow. But no, that was something that I think was a big advantage, is that I, genuinely have empathy for the actors doing the role.
Yeah.
That having been said, actors tend to think that a screenplay is about dialogue, and it's not. What's that?
I'm getting an echo. I know why. Hang on. There you go. Sorry, I'm trying to just check the chat at the same time, so I am listening.
No.
I also just going to scroll up and make sure I haven't missed anything.
I was going to think, be more entertaining, James. He's completely uninterested.
What? Yeah. Oh, he's still talking. Let me look over here. No, this is amazing. I just want to make sure I haven't missed any. I've probably missed a million things, but I'm sure Cal will yell at me if I miss something. That's interesting though, because. Yeah.
Well, that is an advantage, is that you do have empathy for, and I have, which I shouldn't have done, but got into arguments with the showrunner and said any actor worth their salt will not leave the Winnebago to do this scene. Like they're not.
That's
stepping
where
up.
I come in, because I'm out of there with my tail between my legs so fast.
But it's true, because it when you defy the internal logic of a character and the emotional truth of a character, that is something that you're very sensitive to, having been an actor on a series. So that's an advantage.
Let me throw a disadvantage at you that I found, was that I would know, I felt that I could get away with some lazy dialogue because I figured there's little acting things you can do to make it work, if that makes sense. And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
would watch other people do it, and I'd be like, "Oh God, that's just terrible writing. Like that's just not, they can't do that. They're never gonna fix that."
Yeah. See, my take on dialogue is that it's the icing on the cake. It's the little slap and a tickle in a marriage. It's the sort of, it's the fun stuff.
Right.
Because the heavy lifting is story.
Right.
Is story. This dialogue makes it look like a sleight of hand.
Right.
So
Makes
it looks
look
like
easy.
the character, the character is motivating the scene, and it's not. You have story. That's what screenwriting is. That's not what authoring is, interestingly enough.
Okay, so
when
the
you
difference between writing for film and TV and authoring.
authoring, it
You say so story.
story drives a screenplay,
Right.
and it can drive a book. It can drive the Harry Potter books are wonderful examples of that, of story.
Right.
But more so than anything,
The Dan Browns, the I Am
Yeah, but-
Pilgrims, those
but
the relentless.
it's still character in that, because you can get inside, you can go into the interior of a character's mind. It is about character, and it is about not only that, and this is going to sound really cheesy.
Good. Then I'll tease you about it later.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, I'll clip it and we'll just replay it. Yeah.
The one of the key components in approaching writing a book is this thing, which you would understand, I mean, you as a screenwriter, but also as an actor, but is what Hemingway used to call true. It doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be, accurate or what have you, but it has to ring true.
Right.
And Hemingway used to say, the writing is true. And the best example I can think of is like, Jules Verne didn't know what life was like on a submarine because it hadn't been invented yet, but he understood what happens when the seas get, exploited and despoiled, and man's rapacious greed, and he understands outrage, and he understands justice, a greater sense of cosmic justice, and a man going to war against the whaling trade. But using this, technology, this amazing steam-driven technology of, and
The Nautilus.
yeah, and in the process, but it rang true. He connected to those elements that he could project. He didn't know the science behind building a submarine. Nobody did. Well, no, actually, they did have submarines, but
They were pretty. They were
wooden.
pretty rickety at that point. I think,
they were
weren't
rickety and primitive, but they did have them.
There were sort of buckets that would sort of go under ships and drill holes and put explosives in things. Yeah.
During the Civil War, I think
Yeah,
it was. They had a sub. Anyway, so that is something that you really, really strive for. That makes your writing. It's the same thing with an actor. When you're playing a role, it's like you're playing a vampire and you're 300 years old. Well, you don't know what that is, but you find some way to connect yourself to the character. That is really, really important in when you're authoring, when you're writing a book, when you're writing stories, because that becomes the way the reader has of getting into that world. Otherwise, it's just a list of descriptions.
Right. Now, one of the other things I find frustrating in scripts is when they write down what people are thinking. He says, thinking fondly back to, and you're like, how do you see that on film? You know what I mean? When you're like with the stage direction, something that always drove me crazy was
you can't. That's lazy.
He looked at her, knowing that 14 years ago today they did. And you're like, what look is that? Which is a 14 years? Yeah.
In Robert McKee's book Story, which is about screenwriting, he's the guru of screenwriting.
Yeah, I
before
staggered
Blake
through
Schneider.
that book.
I loved it, but Blake Schneider's Save the Cat sort of eclipsed it.
Is my favorite, absolute favorite.
And it has the vital thing that I think is universal for screenwriting and prosing, is that you got on Weaving Tales, David.
Right.
I'm not a story writer. I'm a weaver of tales. But
Yes, indeed.
you,
Exactly, Jimmy. That's what I tell everyone. This is
you
my
know,
friend. He's a great weaver.
you don't have to make fun of me. I make a fool of myself anyway. So it's like,
Yeah. Please don't help me.
so don't enable me.
Yeah,
Damn
that's it. That's what this is all about. This is enabling Jimmy Key. Yeah.
But he writes that there's a, you can, in a book, you can have a character see a pair of shoes in a vintage clothing store, and they remind him of his mother and this one event, and he goes down in history, and you unravel the entire childhood of this kid and abusive. In a screenplay, he looks at a pair of shoes.
That's it.
And he walks on.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got. So it's because that is the significant difference, I mean, and again, I think what's kind of cool is that this is, as I told you earlier, this gave me an opportunity to actually examine my process, which I hadn't done because I just do.
Yeah, it's funny. Jimmy said this just before we started. He was saying that he said, I realized I've never examined how I write. Like I've not done this whole process thing. So this is a first.
It's
because that's going to be one of my questions for sure. Because it's one of those things. It's why I don't call myself a writer. Is I feel like I have no process. I have written, but I would never call myself a writer. Because I see what you do, and I see what Andrew do, and I realize it's a whole different world. It's not about inspiration. It's about, perspiration.
No, well, that's one of the cornerstones. So I'll give you the things.
Okay.
The major things about writing, if you want to sit down and write a story.
Okay. So get your pencils out, people. This is it. Yep.
1, write something that interests you. Write something you love in a genre and what characters that you love. Write what you love, because it's going to be hard.
Even if it's not something you think is going to sell?
I think thinking that something is going to sell isn't smart to do at the beginning, because what you're trying to do is accumulate the skills to be able to write something. So when you're starting out writing, it's really important that you write as in something that you love. Like I started writing basically Conan books, when I was a little kid, and Westerns and stuff, because that's what I loved, and spooky, weird Westerns and stuff. Conan in a weird Western. There you go. There's a twist.
Wow.
Kind of original.
Someone write that now.
Boom. Did your head just explode? But so then write what interests you, because it's going to get hard. It's going to get difficult. You're not going to be inspired. And that's the second thing that you really, really need to bring is discipline. You've got to get your daily word count.
So how do you do that? Because that's something that I suck at.
You sit there until you're done.
And is that the first thing you do in your day? Is that like, how do you?
No, I got to get warmed up.
Right.
I got to get my outrage on. So I go to Reddit and Twitter and stuff. But
oh God, you doom scroll and then you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Get a lather.
But how do you get off? I never get off. I go, I need some inspiration. Let me go to Twitter, and that's the end of the week.
Well, I think we've been living through some strange times, and there's. I'll get to distraction later, but
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to distract you.
No, but see, squirrel.
Yeah.
But discipline is really important. If you want to write a story, start off at 250 words a day. That's easy. Do 500.
How long does that take?
It depends. It takes as long as it takes. It really does.
Are you writing good stuff at that time, or are you just like puking it out?
You can do both. There are days where you literally feel like you're surfing this effortless wave, and it's just spectacular. The planets have aligned, all is in harmony, and you're just this.
You are the Keanu of writing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I am one with the word,
Yeah.
And then there are days where it literally feels like you're dragging boulders through molasses. It's just horrible, gruesome, ugly work. The crazy part is 3 drafts down the road, you can't tell the difference between the two.
Ooh. Huh.
There's no difference between the days you were inspired and the days you were just dogged and determined. So like I said, it takes as long as it takes. So I do 1,000 words a day. That's like my minimum. And
So roughly, give me like how long does that generally? Is there like an average, on average? What would that take?
I try and do 1,000 good words, so it takes a little longer. So it's on average, it's anywhere from 6 to 11 hours a day.
And are there some days you'll just do 2,000? I mean, there are days you just get
yeah. The other day I was up till like 2:30 in the morning because I was just I was inspired. And you grab those days, but boy, do you pay for them the next day.
Right. Those 1,000 words the next day.
Write.
Yeah.
I have nothing
left. Cat is sad. Yeah.
But you do it. You just do it. So discipline, and if you can, 7 days a week, because you don't want to lose your momentum. You don't want to get pulled out of that world. And then the third thing is this thing I talked about, which is Hemingway, the true, like making something resonate. If it resonates in you, it'll resonate on the page. If it moves you to tears or laughter, chances are it's going to move a reader to tears and laughter. Like that's so, and that's an amazing thing. Like that's what I do for screenplays as well. And pilots is that if I laugh at it after like 10 drafts, or if it makes me cry after 10 drafts, then chances are it's going to make a reader respond as well.
Right.
And then the other thing is something that isn't as important in screenwriting is punctuation and grammar.
Oh, I know. God, you realize how bad you are at that. Eat, shoots, and leaves. That's what I've been going to.
Yeah, but the internet is a fantastic resource.
Yeah.
So is Stephen King's book on writing is really, really good.
Yes. What other books do you like? So Stephen King on writing, you said you liked Save the Cat. I love Save the Cat.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it changed the way I watched movies, though. I find I study movies now instead of watching them away. But it's
the same thing. Like when you're behind the camera, behind the scenes, it just changes your perspective.
Yeah.
The way you know a movie is well done is if you get lost in it, despite that part of your brain which is still monitoring everything, you still get sucked in and lost in the movie.
Yeah.
So Save the Cat is really good. It's actually required reading, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
In LA, because it teaches you to think like a distributor. David.
Jimmy loves to talk about distributors, just so we know. Many a night, Jimmy has regaled me with his thoughts on distribution in Canada.
Ranting.
Okay, so book-wise, if someone's starting out, you think, Save the Cat's a pretty great introduction to film writing.
Yeah, but commercial film writing.
Because it used to be screenplay by whatever his name was.
Well, it was Robert McKee stories, and then it was Sid Field's.
Right, I remember that. We're just doing an ad. It looks like we're just doing an ad for WinZip. It's just popped up on screen happily. There we go. That's free advertising for WinZip. That was it was screenplay. Sid Field, that's right. I remember that one, reading that as a kid. But it's so antiquated now. It's make sure your typewriter has plenty of ribbon.
You don't have a bottle of whiskey? Well, get one.
Yes.
You're going to need it.
Yes. Have your telephone ready, because the agents will be ringing. Yeah, exactly.
So it's... Yeah, those are. But Eat, Shoots, Leaves is an excellent book, and not only that, it's a very entertaining read. It's a really fantastic read. But also the internet is phenomenal for that.
Yeah, you studied this Wool guy, didn't you? You made me read that book that he put out, Wool.
Oh, Hugh Howey. Oh yeah. But we're talking about the craft now. But
right,
what happened here?
We lost.
So, am I back?
Yeah.
So am I there?
Yeah.
With screenwriting, you don't have to be because it's all in present tense.
Right.
He picks up the ladder and walks to the bridge. But with writing, it's past tense. And with prosing, authoring, weaving of tales, it's past tense.
The weaving, yeah.
There's the weaving. There's quite a few variations of the past tense. There's a passive past. There's, it's complicated.
All that grammar I didn't
And
listen to in school, you're saying, comes to play.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And neither did I. I just thought it's about, I'll write stories, and I could write stories well, and that was fine. But screenwriting is a weird mix between poetry and architecture. So poetry, because you're trying to get as vivid and powerful a punch in a limited space. Architecture is because you have to have things in certain places, otherwise they fall apart.
Right.
Like retaining walls. Like, you do not put the garage on top of the kitchen. You don't do it. It just, you have to have, and in screenwriting, you have to have things happen at certain page counts.
Right.
And in fact, we call the script, the real estate, like how much real estate. It's 95 pages. So where in the real estate does a midpoint conflict? Is your inciting incident? All these things have to happen. If it's an action movie, you want basically the third act becomes nearly half the movie. If it's a big Pixar film, those chase sequences wind up becoming, and they also have the long dark night of the soul in the middle of the climax. Like they're really, but these things have to happen in a certain way. If it's a genre, it has to hit certain things. But within that,
sorry,
go
ahead.
No, go ahead.
There's a tool there's a friend of mine, Seth Worley, who does a lot of short films for Red Giant, and has just done some amazing stuff. He's taken basically almost like the Save the Cat approach, and he's turned into a story clock. And so when you're jotting down ideas, you're jotting ideas down on this clock and making sure that they fit into the right places for you. And what it also allows you to do, which I thought was interesting, was it adds a symmetry to your stuff. You go, oh, that happens there. I need something over here that could set that up. It's a really neat system. If you haven't looked at it, you should have a look.
That's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
You just hit on one of the big differences.
Well, Seth did.
Between screenwriting and writing stories.
Right.
Is theme. Theme is hugely important in screenwriting.
Right.
Because it's kind of the unifying element, the unified field. It's the thing that every story, every character journey within has a commonality. And I often cite that it was a really well done episode of the Murdoch Mysteries that you did, where you played like an accountant or something who gets trapped by the streetcar.
Right. Yes. Sort of bureaucrat, Dilbert. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it based on what actually happens when people get trapped by a subway car, which is really gross, which is they're alive and they're fine, but the second they back the subway, they're instantaneously dead.
Right.
So what the EMTs and the cops do in New York is if the guy has a family, if they have a loved one, they bring them to the subway and say goodbye, and then they back the train up and it's over because there's nothing they can do. But the guy is cognizant, he's alive, he's aware. It's just, he's on a ticking clock. And you were wonderful. So who was the girl who played your girlfriend, your wife, the girl you had a crush on?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Oh, that's awful. Because I worked with her on Traders for years. She was amazing. And she was, I'm going to look her up. You keep going. I'll look her up.
Okay, so it was a really, really lovely, powerful episode. And David and this girl were wonderful because he finally confesses that, he's crushing on her. And then, but you have other characters pursuing other things like solving crime. And really, the theme of it was, what would you do if you had like 15 minutes left to live?
Yeah.
How would you live that? But the other characters weren't picking up on that theme.
Right.
It didn't resonate. And I think that
felt
episode
it didn't tie together.
It did not tie. Right. And that's what theme does, is that every character has to sort of, in some way, reflect on or be informed by this theme of what would you do if you had 15 minutes left to live. So that would have, I thought, like just made it amazing. But that is the importance of theme in screenwriting. In fact, you pitch a producer with theme. What are the themes of it? Well, it examines this and this and this, and all characters will sort of, examine their relationships with their families and and come to
So
a resolve.
when you're going to write the story, you're pitching the guy who, or sorry, I shouldn't say guy, the person running the show and saying, this is what's going to happen in my episode.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you say this is it, but well, I'm talking more like when you pitch a studio or a producer, on a feature or something.
Right.
That's when and it explores the themes of da 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 da, and every character will. Hopefully, I'm being cogent here, but
yep, no, I get it.
But when you write a story, you don't know your theme.
Angela Vint.
Angela Vint, right,
absolutely wonderful, and I'm so embarrassed that I've forgotten her name, but there's too many damn names.
Big apologies to Angela Vint.
Yeah, Angela, you're brilliant. Yeah.
And David's old, so
yeah, it's true. It's the memory starts going.
But yeah, theme is not important with a book at all. Like, in fact, most authors are like, I had no idea what the theme was. I was just writing it. So
that's for someone reading it to figure out.
Exactly. That's academics and students to figure out,
right,
what the themes were. I mean, Hemingway wasn't going, it's an old man and a fish. It's man against nature. No, it's a guy who caught a fish.
Right.
And he's stubborn and he doesn't want to lose it because it signifies that he's, it's a decline of his powers and abilities.
You're a big fan of Hemingway.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it about him that you like, and do you bring that to your stuff? What do you think?
No.
Other than the true,
he's really. The reason I bring him up is because his work is really clean and simple, and it's straightforward. It's uncluttered. I love Faulkner too, William Faulkner. But his stuff, you got to have a beer in you just to make sense of it because it's meandering.
There was something that came up in On Writing by Stephen King, which I loved. Was he said, if you can say it as simply as possible. Like, just say what you mean, and you can worry about the other stuff later. Just make sure that it's clear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's really seductive. You can get to get caught up in, your.
Take it away, Jimmy.
Well, the exuberance of your own verbosity. Like,
exactly. Yes.
Get right into the purple prose, and it's really easy to do, and you can't. It's antithetical. You don't want to sound smart. You want to communicate an idea. You really want to. What is the easiest? And Stephen King is amazing at that.
He's the master.
Oh my God, especially his short stories. His short stories to me, and the non-horror short stories are just magical. Like, just wonderful.
Well, and that book on writing was a revelation to me. That because people can always make excuses, myself absolutely, for why they're not writing. And to hear about him coming home from work and sitting in the boiler room of his apartment building writing, because that's the only space he could find, is just amazing. Same thing with the Harry Potter books too, right? Like writing in a cafe because they didn't have heat in the house. It's so discipline.
It is discipline. And whether that comes from desperation, which certainly J.K. Rowling was, I think she was on the dole at the time, or
she's on welfare. And I mean, also even Stephen King. Stephen King was not. I mean, they were struggling to make ends meet, right, while he was writing originally.
One of the things that I took away from that was God bless him, he's very honest in that book about his addiction, his demons.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can't remember writing Cujo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's...
I was like, what? But it's really good.
That's not fair. Let me jump into the chat and see if this stuff that sort of comes up over and over again. So feel free to throw stuff in now, obviously, but I'm gonna.
Well, you look over. I'll regale everybody with sea shanties.
Oh dear God! Well, we've just suddenly lost it. We were doing well, and then the sea shanties started. Who started the sea shanties thing? Was that Elon
It was a TikTok
Musk?
thing.
Oh, it
No, it's a
wasn't. Oh,
TikTok thing. Yeah.
because Elon Musk started talking about it, and I was like, oh, we're done. We're done. All right. So, well, the story clock seems to be people like this. What is the theme you speak of? All right. Howdy from Calgary. That's helpful. Hello. I'm always forgetting I'm the moderator and everything. Okay, here we go. Uh, yes, they have pre-printed story clock notebooks, plot device. Yeah, they've got. He's got a whole thing going. I mean, you don't need to go that far if you don't want to, but he's a great guy, and it's if you can support him, that's fantastic. And we should also say Jimmy. Jimmy's books are available and should be read because, and I'm going to embarrass him now, but truly one of the best short stories I have ever read is one called Tad the Monster. In the first, I think it's the first series of books.
Yeah, it's volume 1.
Volume 1.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
He's got 5 volumes, and there's just tons of amazing. It's like a different book every time. It's extraordinary. But Tad the Monster just has this somehow captured this. I think, as you say, there was a comedy and a beauty to horror. There was a love of the horror as this, which is just basically just a story about a kid, learning to become a monster. Basically, I mean, that was,
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Somebody who's accused of being a monster because of the way he looks has to become a monster to, save a life.
It's
but
absolutely
it's
brilliant.
funny. That was the one where that was like, for me, the big sea change, because I wrote that and I was like, I really want to do this. And I had plotted out something else and outlined, because I'm a screenwriter. So I outline, I do treatments, I, really, really work it so I know my way through the story. And that was one where I was just like, nah, I just want to, I threw away what I had prepared and just said, I just want to do a story about a misshapen man and make it a Southern Gothic, set it in the bayou.
Oh, it's
and
gorgeous.
I just started
you
writing.
Could see everything. Like I would love to. Like, I mean, it's one of the few things I've read where I've gone like, oh, I'd love to make a film out of that. I mean, I think it would take a Guillermo to do justice to it, but it's extraordinary. But so, okay, so 2 things. First off, while we're talking about books, Amazon. You go to Amazon, you can get them there. Is that the deal?
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah.
And are they looking up Jimmy Key?
No.
Or are they looking up James Key or Crowscratch, or what are they?
Crowscratch is the best.
Okay.
Way
I can put a link in here now. I think about it. All right.
But that's.
.com. Let me just find them for you while we're here. And also, the other question I'd have for you is just a nuts and bolts question. Like,
sure.
What's the process for you when you the actual, when you say, okay, I'm going to write something, be it a book or a script or whatever, what are the steps you go through, the physical steps of the writing process, if that makes sense?
I don't think there's one straight answer for that, because the only universality is it something that interests me? Because as a screenwriter, I have written screenplays that, my manager has suggested I write because that would be a smart thing to do.
Right.
And they're just never that strong. They're never that, I mean, they're technically good, but they don't have any heart. They don't have any true, as it were.
Right.
But they're lacking that sort of magical ingredient, which is a connection to you. Like the best example is, I was approached by producers, Copperheart, and I'd worked for them, and you've worked with them, and they said, we have a graphic novel from Clive Barker that we've optioned, and would you be interested in pitching us your take on the story? And they sent me it was a treatment of it, and it was about a zombie outbreak at a zoo. And it was a little boy trying to find his mom. And so you track through that. And I was like, and I love Clive Barker.
Me too.
He's not just a wonderful horror writer. He's a beautiful horror writer.
The books of blood. Loved them.
But they're exquisite, and the language
and they're
is
terrifying
and grotesque, but exquisite. Like he puts words together like very few people, and delicate horror. And I looked at it and I was like, this isn't a movie. This is a sketch. It's like, it's one thing over and over and over. And I said to the producers, I will do it if I can tell the story from the perspective of the animals.
Right.
So it's like Madagascar meets The Walking Dead.
It's freaking genius. And a musical on top of that.
Well, that was
I haven't read it. You won't let me read it, but you know.
Well, that was the part that I was really proud of, which was like somehow I turned this like horror graphic novel into a musical.
And James won't say this, so I'm going to say it. Clive Barker freaking loved it.
Yeah, I was so scared when gave him the first draft, because there was nothing from his graphic novel really, other than the concept and the title, and he could not have been more I was really floored. That was a high point. That's got to be
tough to watch someone take something that you've written and completely rework it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that gracious. I'd be huh. I would be like, oh, interesting. I see. A little audacious.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Next. Yeah. Which is the other thing that's really interesting I find about the film and TV stuff is that, as you say, the further you get into the production of a film that you've written, the less important you are and the less input you have, which is extremely frustrating and seems completely backward to me. Suck it up, Hewlett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I remember having this losing my mind in poor Andrew Miller's car,
right,
and pounding on his dashboard.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they're destroying my work. And he's like, yeah, but you're done.
Yeah.
Like, it's not your movie anymore. It's not. It's got nothing to do with you. You had your moment in the sun where you were the rock star that galvanized a franchise, and it's all great and exciting. But now, no, it's the directors and the producers' movie.
Yeah, there's a sort of a fallacy, isn't there? I remember my dad visiting a set once that was built around this script that I'd written, and he was like, wait a second, so there was nothing, and then you typed away, and now there's this. And he was so sort of enamored with that idea, and I was like, yeah, but this is nothing like what I wrote. None of this is what I wrote.
That was your takeaway.
Yeah, someone else changed everything.
No, but that's your takeaway from like probably the loveliest father and son moment.
Yeah,
is that, yes, but it's not as I envisioned.
Yeah. There's this sort of like, for me, there was always this like, I am God here. And it just doesn't, that's why the book side has always appealed to me, because I thought, well, I was always jealous of painters. Like, this is the other thing that we should mention. James is also an incredibly accomplished painter and artist. And if you don't do commissions, you're freaking nuts. You should sell your stuff, because it's freaking beautiful. But he did one of the most heartbreakingly beautiful paintings of Mars as a present when Mars died. And it has this sort of angelic, like it was, like you talk about character, you talk about True. Somehow Jimmy's managed to get True into art as well, where you just go like, that's my dog. That's my freaking dog. Only flat and painted. And glowing slightly.
The subject was, a pretty extraordinary.
Near and dear. Yeah, Jimmy and I spent a lot of time chatting over coffees with our two giant, well, mine was a giant mutt. His was a rather purebred.
No, he was a mix. He was
a mix.
He was a Catahoula leopard hound mixed with a velour tracksuit.
Yeah. Right.
Or a
Huzzah
fluffy bathroom rug.
Yeah.
One of those.
Huzzah's like part husky and part, kangaroo in my books. And all annoying. We just had to buy her a muzzle.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm now training her to get used to the muzzle, because she started snapping at people. Not people.
She's the sweetest. I love her.
Well, it's just, she's like me. She just hates, just because you're a dog doesn't mean you have to like dogs. I'm a human, doesn't mean you have to like humans or even dog humans. Okay. Why are all the Jameses who come on text so talented? I don't know, James Gurney. It's true. James Gurney is our dungeon master and virus expert extraordinaire. But yeah, I mean, we're like batting 50-50 on this so far. So I'll leave it to the James to figure out who the other one is. Okay, so there was a question here I want to say. Okay, so do you just make up a story as you go, or do you have an idea in mind, like ahead of time? Says Jen of the Jungle.
Jen, again, there's not a straight answer to that in that it really depends. Like I said, I will do an outline and I will work it and work it and work it and feel I know the world and the characters and the character arcs and what the challenge is, what the indomitable challenge, the nemesis, and have it all worked out and sit down to write and just go, nah,
Right.
nah, it's not nailing me. It's not grabbing me.
Right.
Whereas, or I hate this, but it is that thing of something that resonates within you.
Right.
The true, right. For lack of a better expression. And if no one's patented that, I do.
I know. Go with it. That's nice.
But
a weaver of the true.
Weaver of true.
Or a true weaver.
Yeah, that's our sign.
Isn't that that's already taken? It's a gang's got that already.
Is it a gang?
Yeah.
Is
that or a hippie?
If I just said something rude to people.
Yeah.
But an example is, and this is the best example
ever people
that I can think of, Jen.
Okay, very good.
Is that I had done this story, detective story, set in antebellum, the South, and I wanted to do something about the enslaved workers, and take advantage of all my prodigious Civil War research.
Right.
And by the way, quickly, research is one of the best parts of the job. It's just a blast.
Yeah, like, I'm still doing it. That's the problem with it, research though.
But I had done this whole outline and worked it. And then I stopped and I was like, wait a second. What do I know about the horrid institution of slavery? Nothing. And I can't write from that perspective because that's cultural, exploitation. And I can't do that. And I thought, well, wait, actually, I do know something because at one time I was in Antigua in a post-breakup vacation, and I went into the town of St. John's and I stumbled into the Museum of Antigua, which is this little tiny ramshackle thing with Xeroxes on the wall.
Right.
But it led me, it was all about slavery and the horrors of it. And Antigua was owned by a family who, they owned everything. And after emancipation in 1832 or 1838, they kept the island in economic servitude for another 100 years. So it wasn't the parents and the great grandparents of these people. It was their parents and their grandparents who'd experienced, oppression. And suddenly my perspective shifted and I started wandering through, and it was one of those moments where time collapses on itself, where the history, what is it? Faulkner says, it's never the past. The past, it's never the past. In fact, it isn't even past. And you get that moment where there's no time. It's all part of a continuum. Yeah, it's all part of a continuum. And there is something that's alive and dark in this place. There was an evil. And then I went to this chapel, the Codrington Chapel, and there was a little old woman performing what I found out later was Santeria over the gravestones of this wealthy family.
Huh.
And they were the thing was built in the 1700s, 1750 or 1740. And the gravestones were all worn and weathered. And there's this little old woman and the shadows are so amazing in the Caribbean because there's a brilliant sun. So everything underneath is dark and and it was so spooky and eerie and moving that I realized what she was doing was keeping the devil down.
Ha.
And then I was like, oh, okay, I know something about the horrid institution of slavery. That was, and so I wrote the story Zombies of the Caribbean,
Which
is
strangely enough, Polynomial has just said was their favorite of those stories.
oh cool.
There you go. So
Hi,
Polynomial, you got a
Thank you.
reader.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like that one too, but it was that was the thing that inspired me to write that. And again, it started out as a short story and wound up being a novella because that's how much it needed to tell that story.
But that's the beauty of what you're doing, is that you get to explore these things as long or as short as you want them to be. I mean, or as they need to be. And the other thing that I think is brilliant about it is, and we haven't talked about this, but there's so much writing that happens that no one will ever see in the film industry.
Oh gosh,
you know,
yeah.
Between us, the number of scripts that will never get made because of whatever. And this is an opportunity for you to take some of that stuff and explore it properly in your own way and be that artist at the canvas who gets to decide everything, if that makes sense. Which I think is I'm so jealous of that. I think it's fantastic.
Well, it's it's, as you know, it's hard work. It's just hard work, and
that's why I don't do it. Like I just don't. no, but like really, I don't have. I've always struggled with that. I love the idea of writing, and I hope one day to return to it in some way, shape, or form. But it would have to be. I think it would have to be something that I have complete control over, because it's the only fun I've had. Was like Dog's Breakfast was so much fun. There's because I could own all of its flaws. I could,
Yeah.
There's another question here.
Oh, well,
Talking about what inspired you to become a writer. We sort of touched on that, but
no, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Okay, and the next part, there's a second part, Jimmy.
Okay.
Is how did you drive yourself to sit down and put your thoughts on paper? As Devil versus Angel says that's the hardest part that they have sticking to.
The first part, what inspires you to be a writer, is I just think some people have a need to escape into story. And I look back on it. What I'm doing now is what I was doing in grade 1 and grade 2. Like I would write stories and illustrate them. I was the kid who was being sent to the principal's office to like show them my work as opposed to being punished, which I should have been. But like I felt a need to escape. And I think it is, the more I analyze it as I get older, why have I chosen this path or whatever? I don't know if I had a huge choice. And I think that what drives you, as an actor, it was fun. We made, good money, and it's a fun, I don't think there's anything sexier or funner place on earth than the set. I think it's just, but it wasn't enough. It doesn't satisfy that need to, as you say, be a god and paint the world. Like it's not, you're again, a part of a larger mechanism.
Right.
And it can be challenging. It can be, tons of fun, tons of pain, but it's not enough. And I think that they're part of it, I think, is just losing yourself in the world, the joy of discovering that world.
Right.
The joy of like investigating characters and finding a connectivity, which is something that brings us all like together. Like it's a commonality, our fear, our pain, our anger, our love, our rage, whatever, it does connect. And I think that as an artist, it's really fascinating. So I don't know if you have a huge choice. I think that you wind up doing this because you feel on some level it's important to you to do it. And you really like doing it.
Right.
Like it's just fun. It fires some synapses and
did you just launch straight into it? Were you able to do that, or did you sort of have to? Well, you're saying you were doing it quite young, so I guess you got to sort of bash things out early.
Yeah, like I kind of knew I was like, I'm a product of the '80s. Like, and all of us we were all trying to be Alex P. Keaton. Michael J. Fox on Family Ties, and
back when conservative was cool, or not.
Have little briefcases and Argyle sweater vests, and but in the back of my head, like language writing had always been a part of who I was and what I did, and to be honest, and I thought that maybe acting would satisfy that itch entirely, but I found that there was a lot of sitting around and doing nothing. And I think I was always impressed with you and Andrew writing your stuff, because it was good. It was ambitious. It was fun. It was, clever.
Well, and that was just a process. That was a fun process too, just because we got to write with, you're writing with a friend, you're enjoying that. That's another thing I want to ask you about. I'll voice that in a sec. The other part here is like, how do you sit down and put your thoughts on paper? How do you make yourself do that? Or you feel is this a guilt? There's a great note in, I can't remember who it was who said this, who said either write or don't write, but don't feel guilty if you don't. And basically, if you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. So
the answer is just do it. It's
right.
like, I hate to sound like a Nike ad.
Yeah.
If you sit down and it's not happening, start writing. What you're doing is, you might be, if you really want to write and you're not writing, what you're doing is you're judging yourself. You've got that third eye out, and it's like, is this going to be any good? Is this going to be worthwhile? How do I make this perfect? How do I make this people want to read this? You can't do that. You just have to start and trust that, if it engages you, then it will engage others. So it goes back to that thing, is find something that interests you, something that you love. Don't put any pressure on. I mean, one of the reasons that I became Crowscratch, this is kind of weird.
Who is the author of the
Haunted Library Tales from the Haunted Library series of books.
And the owner of the Haunted.
And also he does the intros, and he's this rather arch, bombastic, diabolical character that my cousin goes, no, he's you.
I was going to say, really? Yeah, he seems so familiar to me.
No, I thought it was so far removed.
No. Not at all. No. It's like you doing your horrible hilarious House of Frankenstein impersonation. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
I was hugely influenced by that. Perhaps the greatest Canadian television series ever made, The Hilarious House of Frankenstein.
Yeah. They're redoing it, but I think they're trying to do it like as an educational thing or something. I don't know. It's like,
they shouldn't. It's just a campy, fun, crazy.
It was nonsense. It was wonderful nonsense. Yeah.
But one of the things that because I had bothered to go to theater school, unlike David, not that it really made a difference.
And that's the end of this podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming by.
We had this amazing teacher named Mina Yakim, quite famous, and she would do mask work.
Right.
And so we'd wear these like Commedia dell'arte masks.
Right.
And I would see actors who were very self-conscious, who were a bit wooden, who in scene class, all of a sudden, like, they were doing amazing, detailed, fascinating work. It was just because they'd removed that self-judgment. They'd removed, they were free. They could hide behind a mask. So what I did was, I realized, having not been an author, I mean, I'd written book tie-ins for the Roxy Hunter for Penguin, but those were, they weren't the same. But
that's still books.
They were books, but they were, but this was sort of like trying to take a reader on a journey and really respecting the time. Like, that's one of the things that I try to do, is I really respect the reader's time. I don't want to waste it. I don't want to be indulgent or whatever. So I was self-conscious, and I realized that if I could jump to the head of the class, if I was not me, if I was a character, if I was this guy Crowscratch, the curator of the Haunted Library at Crowscratch Manor, then I'm just doing dictation. I'm just telling, it's Crowscratch telling this story. And that allowed me to like write in different genres, different styles, different time periods, different voices, because it's just Crowscratch who's relating a tale, from the library. And
it's a neat way of tying together what are really very different stories and worlds. And no, it's brilliant. Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant.
But that helped me as a writer not judge myself, not write with the end being, I want to sell this book. It allows you, it gave me the freedom to just enjoy the process and discover something that I, didn't know, but genuinely loved doing. Like that was, so it was the fact that I could hide behind a mask. So that's what worked for me with Crowscratch.
Interesting.
The bottom line is I still sat down and did it.
I tell everyone, write 15 minutes a day to start. Just start with that so that at least you're getting into the habit of writing every day.
Well, I would say word count.
Really?
Word count is more important. Word count is more important because if you start off easy, 250 words a day. If you want to write more, write more. But you have to hit 250 words a day, because what happens then is those days that you don't feel like writing, that you don't feel inspired, that there's a million things going on that are distracting you and all kinds of craziness going on in the world. It doesn't matter. You still have to get your 250 words.
But is this, so when you're writing your 250 words, are you writing them like this is, so you want to become a writer, you don't know what you're going to write yet. Start writing anyways?
No, look for the thing that inspires you, that you love.
Interesting, because I would tell people to write anyways. I would say just so that you've got the it's like an exercise.
That's
wrong. Which is why I'm not a writer.
David Milch, the brilliant screenwriter, the brilliant TV writer, NYPD Blue and
right.
And God, the Cowboy series. Oh, Dark Wood.
Oh,
what?
Did he do?
Deadwood.
Deadwood. Whoa.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Love that show.
That was Milch, right?
Was that?
Yeah, that was Milch.
It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It was Milch.
That was one of those ones that I forgot to look at it like a show.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
I just got lost in the characters of the
and
world.
it had like Shakespearean monologues. It was just extraordinary. Anyway, he writes like a page or 5 pages of dialogue a day that in the morning that he puts in a manila envelope and mails to himself and never ever opens. Because what he's trying to do is not make it all precious.
Right.
So he might write gold that day, like just some of the best dialogue, doesn't matter, because that's, Andrew used to say that if you've written something and they want it changed and you loved it, don't worry, you'll write something just as good.
Right.
It's the idea of the preciousness. And that
Which
does
is
get
tough.
back in.
That is very hard for writers to get over. Very, very hard.
It's trust that if you've written something good, you'll write something else just as good.
Right.
It's every now and then it does feel a bit like, lightning in a bottle, where everything just comes together and it's perfect. And oh my God, and you don't want to change it, but you have to be willing to change it.
Right.
Because you might actually wind up coming up with something better. But
you don't come up against that when you're writing your own with your own novels. Like your own novellas.
Well, here's the thing. I would say, so the process being, get a great idea. Say if you want to write a Stargate story or whatever like that. Want to do some fan fiction. Get it, expand the universe. The characters, the world. Give a great obstacle. So you're writing that, and you do a draft of it, and then you do another draft, and you do another draft, and you do another draft. You do another draft. And then usually you send it to an editor.
Right.
And then it comes back and you address
not
the
a
notes.
friend, not a family member.
No. I mean, they do have online, they have beta testing, like people volunteer to actually read your stuff before it's polished.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool.
Which seems very, very generous, because, I rarely have time to read the stuff that is polished, let alone, somebody's work that isn't. But there are those communities, and basically they're like what used to be called writers groups, and where people would meet in person and
give
each other notes and stuff
network
like that.
and
and that's not. And now they do that online.
And where do you do that? What site? Are there sites in particular
I don't know.
you like?
I don't know, because I don't do it, and I'll
you're
tell you why.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. I'm a hermit.
Yeah.
I don't do it because editing, as you know, is a huge part of screenwriting.
Right. And you feel like you've got that.
You kick the tires, you test the logic, you check for consistency of characters. Is it moving fast enough? Are you getting into a scene at the last possible moment and getting out at the first possible moment? Are you moving the story along? Are you balancing pertinent information with entertaining information? Like that's what we do as screenwriters. And sometimes I find, when I first started to become a professional screenwriter, I started to get impatient when I was reading books because the author was like, why are you spending so much time in this scene? Get out of there. Like, it's done. It's done.
Yeah.
We got the info. Let's go. Let's move. So because you do so much editing as a screenwriter, I kind of feel it wasn't necessary.
Right.
So I do kick the tires. I do give myself notes and say, that's awful. That's terrible. Find a better way. But I really love it. Shut up. I don't care. Just fix it. Do something better. So I do that anyway. And then I give it to somebody to do a proofread of.
Right.
Who has very strong opinions, and they do the proofread.
Right.
They do one of the many, many proofreads.
Yeah, I couldn't get over how many times you had to go over those books to get them out. Tammy was asking if you're self-published, and yes, he is self-published. Yeah. And not only self-published, you sort of dove into the whole world of self-publishing, right? The mechanics of it.
I'm self-published because I've had friends who are like New York Times best-selling novelists who, signed a big money deal with a new publishing company, and their books get torpedoed because there's somebody else. The distribution, the promotion and advertising wing of the publishing company only has X amount of money to invest in any book. And if they think
like
they're going to get a bit,
too, really, I mean, same thing.
Yeah, like a distributor.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, there we go. I knew it was coming back. Should have known.
Let me tell you about distributors.
Yeah.
But so publishing has changed dramatically over the course of the last 10 years, like dramatically. And the industry is not the same. So if you want to be an author, a published author, you should learn how to self-promote, self-publish, know all the elements of it, be able to, and not only that, find out what works for you in terms of promotion, how to get your books into people's hands.
And what are you going to be able to do? What are you realistically going to be able to do? Yeah.
I found like I go to YouTube and there's like a gazillion, here's how you do it, and and first step one, and I followed it, step by step by step, and nothing happens.
Right.
And you call them, what is it? The pick and shovel? When there's a gold rush?
Yeah, when there's a gold rush, don't go for the gold, sell the picks and shovels. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, I don't know where that's from, but that's,
No, I've always remembered that because there's a huge industry of people selling picks and shovels.
Which I've been trying to push, to be fair, I've been trying to push James into, because I think James could also have a whole sideline on this, almost tutoring or mentoring stuff,
Well, you see, as a wise old man,
yes,
I am now passing that wisdom
like
to
an oracle. The oracle of truth.
But yeah, so that's why I self-published. I felt that I'm not someone who understands business. I don't.
We're actors that way.
We sit in a corner and make funny words and funny voices and funny faces. I'm not a businessman. And I felt that if you wanted to get books into people's hands, you'd have to learn a business. But more than that, you have to find what works for you. What's your best way? So I thought, like I did that documentary series that David shot brilliantly, one of the episodes. I did a series called Haunted Toronto, where I played Crowscratch.
Right.
And David shot the rap song that I wrote about Rosedale.
Like literally there's like 4 shots. I did maybe 4 shots.
No, the great accomplishment is that you didn't sneak yourself into that many shots.
Yeah. Yeah. When he went through the footage, he'd find that the camera would invariably rotate around to see me, usually,
It's uncanny.
Yeah, it's amazing that I'm more actor than Jimmy, but it's become that.
The camera's drawn to you.
It's true. It's true. The all-seeing eye.
But yeah, so that I thought might be something that would, and I did. I sold some books, like it was, and it was fun to do during a pandemic.
It's pulling together a bunch of your skills. You've got the performance stuff, you know that. You know how to write scripts, you know how to make films. You've been on enough sets to know that. But is it, I mean, I almost feel like it's not enough just to write anymore. You do need to be a businessman about this stuff.
Yeah.
Or an entrepreneur, perhaps is a better word for it, because I think it's not just business. It's the whole, it's marketing. It's everything.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Neil Gaiman, who is the author of Coraline and The Graveyard Book and Oceans at the End of the Lane, like one of my favorite middle school authors, middle grade authors.
Yeah.
And he's a good adult book writer too, but I really, really love his middle grade stuff. Like Coraline is just,
it's extraordinary. Yeah.
But
Graveyard
the
Story.
Graveyard Book.
Graveyard Book.
Yeah. Wonderful. And if you look at his social media presence, you'd think that he was like a newbie author. He's he's working the crowd, he's on Tumblr because he can do longer essay answers and you go, well, you're Neil Gaiman. You're like this, you're the rock star.
Why do you have to do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he does.
I agree. I think that's important though. I mean, I think that's, especially now where there's so many distractions, it's like trying to stay relevant on something like that would be difficult. But I see you struggling with dragging yourself away from the writing to do that. Like you're on book 5 for God's sake. Just one more. Like, how do you?
I know.
Book 6. Oh my God. So of course, you're on book 6.
Yeah.
Holy crap!
I'm nearly done the first draft of book 6. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
So when do you? I mean, obviously not during a pandemic, but when do you not stop? How do you do the marketing? How do you do all that side of stuff? I mean, you do this stuff.
Figuring it out. Well, this was, and this was nice because like I said, I hadn't sort of really considered my process. And if it's helpful to other people, that'd be great.
I've been nagging James to do this with me for a while. I mean, and he always had really good excuses. And I think I just must have got you on a weekday or something. And then then I announced it right away. I was like, we're doing it. Put a picture up, animate it, done. You're in, so.
Yeah. No, you pounced. Like
I'm also I truly am a big fan. Like I just think what you've done is really exciting to me because for me, art by itself is boring to me. I like it. I like the way it intersects with business and marketing and all that stuff. And I see you playing all that stuff, and I just think it's fantastic. James also does voiceover stuff as well. So it's not like he's entirely out of acting. So he's got a few other
That's the only acting I do anymore is
really?
The occasional voice. Is cartoons, voice the occasional cartoon. But
I've become a cartoon.
A caricature.
Caricature of the true.
But I am going to be teased relentlessly. Yeah.
Really, basically.
Oh, God. Why did I? Yeah.
Oh, true weaver. Tell us. Mere mortals.
Oh, my boy.
Yes. Spin us a yarn.
It is interesting to learn about the marketing. And I think you have to do it. You have to come up with a brand. And if you look at, the success of Marvel Comics, was, one, they took heroes and gave them human weaknesses and foibles and challenges. 2, Stan Lee knew how to promote and connect. And Stan Lee's soapbox, he was every month a new Stan Lee soapbox, and they were relevant. They were politically motivated. They were about civil liberties and equality, and it was really. You felt you had a friend when you picked up a Marvel comic.
Yeah, well, he crowbarred himself into the stories. I mean, it was
amazing. It's and people go, "Oh, he's a self-promoter." It's like, no, he was a friend. Like I felt like I had a friend
but you also have to, because I think especially now there's so many distractions. You do that. Community is really, really important. Yeah, I see that with this all the time. I mean, I couldn't get over it. Baz got me into this because we were supposed to do gaming, and I just found that the community was crazy great. Like just that you meet people. Like there was someone I scrolled by it because there's too much going on. But someone was saying like, oh, I know whoever it is who did some Let me see if I can find it. And there's always like a geek who knows a geek, which I just love, speaking as a geek. If you like, I can give you the contact info for Stephen B. Scott, who's an American comic book artist that is currently working on Storm King Productions, which is John Carpenter's horror comic book company. He's currently living here in Belgium, always has great stories to share about his work and conventions. There you go. Ram Custom PCs. Thank you very much.
I think I follow I think I follow that guy on Twitter.
There you go. Twitter.
Yeah.
You're good on Twitter too, aren't you?
No, I'm not. No, you're good on. I'm getting into I'm not.
But you're at Crowscratch on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm at Crowscratch.
All right, so everyone go follow at Crowscratch. Yeah.
But I'm not by nature. Our friend Carlo Rota.
Carlo Rota, yes.
Calls me
wonderful voice.
Carlo calls me the world's most gregarious hermit. Because
well, you call me an extrovert hermit, and I was like, well, so are you, because you're exactly the same.
No,
once you get talking, you're fine. It's just getting you out is the problem.
Just getting me out of getting me away from the desk. But yeah, it isn't by nature. I'm not one of those kind of guys. But I'm starting to, and it's really kind of cool. I discovered Reddit and the self-publish. And,
Reddit's fantastic.
They have a lot of questions.
Also brutal.
I find
one misstep and they'll tear you to shreds.
I don't touch politics, but I on the self-published thing, it's because a lot of them are curious about, optioning a story, a book to a screenplay, and I can help them with that because I lived in LA for years and kind of know that stuff. That's part of my life, so I can offer some insight and it's nice. Like I find the horror community on Twitter really lovely people, like really, supportive and I guess I see the worst part of social media and don't engage, but I also see a wonderful part of social media. I've learned so much on Twitter. It's extraordinary about life, about politics, about science, about the pandemic, about about viruses, about all this amazing stuff.
Well, and to talk to people that you wouldn't normally have any kind of access to.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary. Yeah, I love Twitter. I got to say, I love it.
Yeah, I think I'm not there to fight, so I think that although I do like the people who do,
it's fun to watch. Yeah, it's fun to watch people devolve into name calling nonsense. Yeah. There's another question here. Terabyte was saying, like, if you wanted to make a movie based on a story you had created, would you first write it as a book now?
That is the $100 question.
I would say yes, myself.
Absolutely.
You too? Oh, you agree? Yeah.
I agree completely. And simply because, again, it comes back to source material. Like the Tales from the Haunted Library, the series started out as a source material that I could afford to option. I couldn't afford, approach R.L. Stine. It's for Goosebumps. Right now, the way stuff gets made, if a producer can point to something physical and say it's based on this.
They call it's the most annoying term. They call it pre-awareness.
Oh, yeah.
So you're aware of it before you're aware of it.
It's even devolved from that. It's now IP.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Intellectual property. So what's the IP?
Oh, God, I hate the way it's become...
That's the one part of Hollywood I do not miss.
It makes you want to quote the Smiths, package, repackage, it's like, lamenting about the way that works. And it's the reason why we've got so many, frankly, horrible superhero things continually being made, because it's just,
there's pre-awareness, they're branding, but I would definitely write it as a book, simply because for you, as a filmmaker, it's easier to sell a project when somebody can have it in their hand. If you've done a graphic novel, like
for a while there was the graphic novel approach seemed to be big, where people would do or commission a graphic novel and then they'd get a series based out of it.
There was a studio built up around that. And one of the results of that was Cowboys and Aliens.
Thank God. Otherwise, we would have had to live without that.
That masterpiece. But that was absolute genius on the part of, I can't remember the guy's name. Scott, what's his name? It was Silver Studios, I think.
Someone will find it in the chat.
But it was amazing because when you read that graphic novel, which I browsed it's terrible. It's just amateurish. But this guy was brilliantly turned it into one of the best sales tools, and like gave birth to a whole studio. I don't know how it's doing now, but the guy was charismatic and charming, and I met people who knew him, and it was like, oh yeah, no, I felt like,
but cowboys and aliens.
I know, but I felt like I'd peek behind the curtain, but no, it's a man. It's not the wizard. It's not. It's awful. It's terrible. It was a $200 million or $150 million movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's
awful,
but it's a fun concept.
It was Daniel Craig. It was Jon Favreau was director. Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford was in it.
Just didn't make any sense. But cowboys and aliens. It's just such.
That's like nobody's done this. This is gonna blow your mind. Cowboys.
I mean, that's the other thing is I think people struggle to find things that are gonna work. That work in it. I think there's some great pitches that make for terrible scripts. I'm just going to say a big thanks to SP Elites for the subscription. Thank you very much. Very kind.
But that I would most definitely, if I had a high concept, simply because the spec market doesn't really exist anymore. So if you write a high concept, bigger budgeted screenplay, you really have nowhere to shop it. Like it does behoove you if you write the book, find someone to do some artwork for it, like mock-ups and go and pitch it as a film. Absolutely.
I mean, we discussed this way back before you started doing your writing, even I think, where we were saying like it's the idea of writing a book of something you want to do as a script. It's almost a way of monetizing the development process because no one's paying you to make that first script. Yeah, but if you can write a book, then you could be potentially monetizing that while you're developing it. So, and also then you create a library. So there's always, the more books you have, the more that can trickle in. I mean, I think it's just smart. No, I would definitely write the book. Definitely.
Yeah.
And then tell us all about it. And then, people will buy it. Or what else we got here?
Well, here's an interesting sales story. There was a book I was approached to do this is in LA. I was years usually in the 90s. I was approached to do a recorded reading, like a radio play of a book that was still in the galleys. So it hadn't been published yet. Yeah. So it was in the galleys are sort of like, this is the mock-up for how the book is going to look. And a producer had optioned it and had got in touch with somebody who got in touch with me, and they wanted to do this, a recorded reading. And I edited down the book from its like huge from the novel all the way down to like a nice tight little radio drama. And the reason they were going to do it was because the producer wanted to get the book to David Fincher, who apparently is dyslexic or doesn't like reading. But so this was a way of the producer thinking outside the box to get it to an A-list director that could greenlight the project. That project was Fight Club.
Oh, wow.
And I played, before Brad Pitt, Tyler Durden.
Holy crap. Really?
Yeah, and I can say, in all honesty, Brad Pitt did a way better job. Like a lot. He was good. Oh my God.
I could see you getting punched, Jimmy.
Back in the drinking days. Yeah. But yeah, it was like, but that was an example of somebody, doing a non-linear approach that hadn't been done. And it was really, really clever. So yeah, definitely write the book, find an interesting way to present it.
I mean, that's the other sad truth I'm afraid about Hollywood is that no one reads anything. Trying to get anyone to read anything is a freaking nightmare. Yeah. So whatever you could do to make it easier for them. I wondered about, like, I thought maybe there was a market for recording scripts for people to listen to as they drove back and forth, in Hollywood. But the issue there again is you're basically producing you've got to do that well, because you do a couple of bad actors and a couple of bad production value, and you've just screwed your movie right there. What do you think?
That would be a lot of work for potentially little return if you didn't own the script.
Right. And who's paying for it, right? That's the other thing. So
if you were providing a service, I mean, it's a good idea, but I think that the amount of work necessary to make it, I mean, we did a lot of work on that Fight Club presentation, a ton. And I became friends with the producer, Ross Bell. But a really great guy.
Well, and they've moved that to graphic novel now too, right? So there's Fight Bug. There you go. There's a franchise. Hey, you want to go? I'll go.
Fight Bug. You are not the contents of your wallet.
The first rule of Bug. So
there is no Fight Bug.
And there never will be. So,
folks, this is the idiocy that David and I do.
Unfortunately, it devolves into this pretty quickly. But so basically, they continued that series by doing graphic novels of it, like they've done with Firefly and Buffy and that kind of stuff. There's just so many different venues for this.
Fight Club was the seminal film of our generation. Like it was,
I freaking loved that movie. Loved it. Yeah.
But listen, I got to get to work.
Yes. Oh my God. We've talked forever.
Like, If that's okay. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
No.
It's been great. No, I have really.
Somebody clip that. Somebody clip it. All right.
And listen. I was going to say, if anybody wants to see an example of like me putting in fleshed out what I've been talking about, I can send you volume 1 as an EPUB file.
What?
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do it. I'm at thecrowscratch@gmail.com. Shoot me an email if you want it, and I'll send you.
I'll pop it in the chat. Jimmy, what are you giving it away for?
No, because there's like 5 volumes. If you like that one, buy another.
Then they all get to read Tad the Monster. Then.
Yeah, they get to read Tad the Monster.
I got to say this
Zombies
on
of the
one
Caribbean.
condition.
What's that?
That they write a review on Amazon.
I can't say that.
I can, because you got to help them out.
Amazon's,
If you're going to read it for free.
That would be nice. It would be nice.
The Crowscratch at gmail.com.
And if you want, the address is also at the bottom of my landing page on www.crowscratch.com.
That's crowscratch.com. There you go. Anything else? I think I've got your books. I'll put that in there as well. Jimmy, thank you so much.
Oh, David,
yeah,
my
this
pleasure.
is just great. I mean, I feel like there's a million other things we could talk about, and maybe I'll drag you back another time. And if people have questions, let us know, and then I can sort of either pass them along or drag Jimmy back out for a long, long coffee and take him away from his. How many words are you going to get today, sucker?
It's going to be a late night tonight.
Sorry.
Oh, no
Jimmy, thank you so much. I'll wrap up on the stream, and then I'll just I'll say hi. So
see you guys.
Feel free to bail. Everyone, James
Bye-bye.
Crowscratch, fantastic. Thank you, sir. Now it's all me. God, I can't tell you how I just find that guy so inspiring. Like he's, he was a brilliant actor, became a brilliant writer. He's just a fascinating human being in general. Are we still talking later, TechBandits? What time is it? Am I going to have time? I'd like to. Let me see. Can we try to do a TechBandits around 4:00 if that's okay? Isn't that enough for today? It might be, Cal. I will aim for 4, but as you say, Cal, I'm it's possible I will fade. Ironham says, yeah. Okay, so I guess we are. The two of you are great to listen to. Oh, thanks, Backbomb. I'm glad. That was, it's not only me. It's Jimmy. But Tuesday Writing Bandits with James Key. Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? There you go. Yeah, so go check him out. Get the books. I didn't even start to talk to him because I wanted to talk to him about what about a Patreon or what about a donations page or something to help, because obviously as a writer, like a writer online, how do you make your money? Any way you can is my suggestion. All right, so that was the first writing bandits, and it's funny in doing it. I realized there's a lot of other people who we could talk to about this stuff as well. People that we've mentioned even just in that chat, like there's the New York Times writer, there's the Andrew Miller, whose insights into the industry are terrifying, and just, I mean, when I have a question about the industry, I ask Andrew Miller, so Polynomial, very good. And how many people are other people writing? Like, who else is writing out there? Very insightful, good. That was fascinating, good. What else we've got? Cal's already bored though, but Cal's like, get on with it. Just, have a life. Thanks, Legend, Mods, Bandits. Yes, thank you very much, Mods. Horrible mods. Well, Cal's horrid. Ruby K is pretty great. So what else we got? Let me see if there's any questions. I can, if you read it for free, you better review it. Yeah, please do. I'm amazed that he gives this stuff away, because the amount of work he puts into this stuff is extraordinary. So if you can put in a review, or, email a couple of friends to let them know about it, I think that would really, really help. Jimmy doesn't need our help, but he's, I would love to be able to say to people coming into something like this that they can, that this will help them out too, right? So I need to put a writing bandits thing in there on the website too, don't I? I'm always writing, but always put it aside for thesis, which is also writing, but scientific writing is so different than other. Yeah, I'm sure. I'll bet you a lot of that is about the hard work rather than the inspiration, right, Pac-Bum? I have stories, so many things making it hard to write, actually writing and storyboarding and picking where to start. Terabyte, that's always been my issue. But, I think, as James says, our brain tricks us into not doing things a lot. Like procrastination. I mean, I remember this with cigarettes, when I was trying to quit cigarettes, and I'd be like, I quit cigarettes today. Then I went out, I had a couple of drinks, I had a cigarette. Damn it, I'm smoking again. And then at one point I suddenly went, wait a second. But just because I had cigarettes last night doesn't mean I'm smoking again. But it's, again, your brain just tricks you into this stuff. And I think procrastination is one of those things. It's partially fear. I think it's also habit. I mean, that's why I'm really big on the writing for 15 minutes. Jimmy, I think, has a much better suggestion. Write 250 words. I think that's definitely much smarter, because I used to find when I did that sometimes I was just and it was just I was just wasting time, and sometimes. Whereas if you have to write a specific number of words, I think that focuses you better. I really like that. 5 years ago, I started to write a novel. Still can't finish it. I'm not sure about publishing it yet, but there are so many ideas. John P7. I mean, I think Jimmy said that in the chat, where like editing is such a big part of this stuff. Specific number of good words I plan to actually keep. Well, you never know. My worst block for writing is when I outline something too well. Then the story for me is complete in my head. I'm often satisfied, but I haven't actually told it to anyone. Yes, that's interesting. So his River Song, that's where I really like this story clock thing, because Seth, and I should try to get Seth on here. Actually, I wonder if Seth would might be able to drag Seth in here to talk about it. He's another crazy, wonderful guy. Yeah, so his point is just that sometimes you have it all in your head. You have it all worked out. And it's not until you put it on paper that you see the holes. And writing an outline, well, then you beef up the outline into a short story or a more advanced outline, or you allow yourself to play with some stuff within the outline. I think that maybe that's the way to go with it. I mean, to sort of like, you've got the bones. Now you get to sort of add a little more flesh, and you can sort of mold it from there, if that makes sense. With me, it's laziness. Yeah, it's a full-time job. for me, it's probably more lazy than anything else, but it's also just distracted for me. I don't feel like I have the right brain for writing. I have to do. I think again, it's an ADHD thing where I think there's only now. There is no future. I either do things right now or I'll do them later. No sense of how much time that's going to take, when I'm going to do it. If I, someone said that dreams without plans are dreams. No, was it plans without action are dreams? And I think it's a very easy trap to fall into. I've only written when I've had a very clear, specific thing that I wanted to do, and most of it had nothing to do with writing. So Dog's Breakfast, I wrote that script because I wanted to try directing. Debug, I wrote because I had a story I wanted to tell, and I chose the wrong medium. I should have written that as a book. That would have made much more sense as a book. But you know what? I wasn't there with it. So can I nominate my old film and television studies professor who taught us writing for artists? Oh, yeah, Invisible Dimensions, by all means. I can speak, storytelling. Yeah, speaking, it's good. What do we got? I am always writing short inspirations and will enjoy reading his volume 1. Oh, yeah. Well, yes, enjoy it, Will Avant. Now, the editing cringes. They think about the Google Doc of story I should edit. I mean, but this is the thing. When I was talking about the guilt thing, it was like either write or don't write. But there's no point in beating yourself up about not writing if you're not writing. And I found for myself that I was just feeling guilty all the time because I wasn't writing, and then I suddenly went, this is nuts. Like, I'm not writing, and I don't want to write, so stop beating myself up and I'll work on something else. And my time ended up being spent more with TechBandits. I love writing the updates for TechBandits. Frankly, one of my favorite parts of TechBandits is that. So, okay. Are we sharing stories already? That's good. If you have bits and pieces of a story, should you write down like pieces of a puzzle and keep filing? Okay, so RAP or WR4P. Here's my suggestion to you for that. Have a look at Seth Worley's plot device story clock, because that will help you with the pieces for sure. There's other things. I've seen some other apps out there, but I just found I spent more time playing with the apps than I did actually writing. Plot device, I think, is that it? Let's just have a look. Plot device. There you go. This is it. So this is what I would recommend to you then if you're having trouble with lots of bits and pieces. This is Seth Worley. I shall ask. Oh, Turtle Princess, thank you very much. I haven't looked to see what's going on. Mod actions. Ooh, look at that. Mod actions. Raid started. That was 4 days ago. All right. I can't keep track of all this damn stuff. This Whispers activity feed. Can I see what's in the activity feed? Will that also post that? Show me what's going on. I don't see anything new in here. It's so weird. What's this? Well, can I move that around a little bit? No. Excellent. Okay. I need to get better at not editing as I go. Get the story out and worry about the rest after. That's interesting. I mean, I think Jimmy and I maybe have different opinions on that because he wants 250 good words a day. I think that's fantastic. I just found that, I got bogged down in the editing. I found from a script perspective, and this is probably different with books because they're, a bigger commitment. But with the script, I found sometimes the best way to go was just my joke is like puke it out. Like just go, and just go, this is what happens, and then everyone dies, the end. And then you can sort of go back and see what you've got. That said, that's worked for me on a couple of occasions. The best way I really think is to map it out. If you can just be able to hit all the key things you need to hit, you still have a complete freedom when it comes to the writing. So I really would suggest that you give yourself that the help of having a an outline, and then you just throw it out on the page. Like, just don't worry about it being good. Just get it down and then work from there. If you're interested, I can give you the contact for Scott. Yep, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much, Ram. That would be great. Let me just so basically, if you don't mind, just send it to David I. Hewlett. Is that right? Hewlett, just gonna spell my own name, at gmail.com. That is open to anyone. I get to it when I can, but thank you for that, Ram Custom PCs. And if you've got other suggestions for things you'd like to see or things you want to talk about or, any kind of recommendations, then please do that. There's always so many interesting things to do and not enough time. Yeah, no kidding. And I'm not helping, am I? By leaping onto the streams every so often. Dang, I keep missing these streams. Oh, Ranger Gonzalez. Sorry, it was a bit early today. Yeah. Well, great description. Terrarian, Kilobyte, you get what we got. Could you still write Cube as a book, or are there legal issues now? So PacMom, I don't know who owns that now. It's probably owned by, I think it was Lionsgate that bought it. So I don't even know if Vincenzo and Andre have control over it anymore. Oh, thank you, AP Joan. I hated Debug. Absolutely hated it. I hate the movie. I can only see the bad in that whole thing. But that world was something that I'd love to explore. There was a lot of work involved in that. And I think maybe at some point I will emerge from my PTSD, my Debug PTSD, and see how else to explore that. But I wondered about maybe looking at some graphic novel stuff, or I think probably the smartest thing for me to do would be to sit down and actually write it. But, a lot of things going on. Okay, I feel like if I ever start to not enjoy it, then it's not going to be worth it no matter what. So I write what I want, when I want, not making a career of it, but I'm still in love with it. That's great, His River Song. Look, I think that's fantastic. I mean, the reality is, as soon as something turns into a job, it becomes a lot more difficult and a lot harder and certainly not as enjoyable, right? I love acting. I love the fact that people pay me to do it, but at the same time, there are complications that comes with being an actor that didn't exist when I was just doing it with my friends, obviously. So my brain just has not been in that mode. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, Hallie, I think it just comes down to starting. That's it. Just throw yourself into it. I'm so far behind on this chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, Ranger Gonzalez. I like that. I like that approach. Just throwing stuff down. Yeah, PacMom, if you think it's someone who's going to have insights that would be useful to people, then for sure, I think that's definitely worth it. Oh, Greg Scott Bailey, thank you very much. Very much appreciated. You have PTSD? Yeah, basically. Yeah, I'm sort of joking, K McCabe, but I just had such a horrible experience making that film that I struggle with what to, with what I could do with it, and how much of it's a reaction to the process and how much of it's that I really have a story that I want to tell. I mean, I just love the idea of these sentient spacecrafts. Not new by any means. The Ancillary Justice is a really interesting book series that deals with that kind of stuff. The idea that the beings that live and work on the ship are connected to the ship. So what happens when the ship gets destroyed, kind of thing. They were planning on doing remakes for ages. Oh, Aragon. Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's interesting. Well, then, yeah, I mean, Tammy, for sure. Let me know. That's great. Greg Scott Bailey says, acting is so much fun. In another life, I would have put more effort and energy in that direction. No regrets, though. Oh, that's good. I mean, it's good. It's good not to have regrets. The acting side of stuff, again, I've always said, I love acting. I hate being an actor. It's just that part sucks. Hello, Zenos. Here comes the food tease. You're one of the smartest people I know. Wow, I'm so sorry, K. McCabe. You need better friends, definitely. Okay, do you recall your part's name? on Cube. What, Worth? Remember, Worth on Cube. I was Worth for sure. I remember it very well. Very well. All right. I should take a break. And I'll see how I'm doing at 4, but I may see about coming in and doing some Tech Bandits with the Bandits later. I need to write down, I love acting but hate being an actor. Yeah, because everyone sees the acting part of it. Everyone sees the part where you're on set having fun, goofing around with famous, beautiful people and stuff. And that, I'm not going to deny, that is absolutely wonderful. It's like a freaking dream. The problem is it's surrounded by basically doing job interviews for a living. And you're just constantly trying to persuade people to hire you for things. And that I struggle with. I really struggle with it. I have no problem at all promoting Tech Bandits. I suck at promoting myself. Don't want to do it. Frankly, that's why I have an agent. That's why I just don't want to do that. So, but the Tech Bandit stuff, absolutely happy to get out there and ask people for money and help and all that stuff. So, and I was sort of hoping that the Writing Bandits might be an additional side to this whole tech banditry thing, because the idea with Tech Bandits is it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And I think the arts part is really interesting because, again, like even just science fiction, first stage of engineering, right? It's the dreaming phase. So I think there's a lot of stuff that could be done with there. All right. I better wrap this up. Thank you all very, very much. And I will possibly see you again at 4, but we'll see. So I will say a fair and adieu. I shall say be safe, be kind, be brilliant. I will say cheerio and huzzah. Wait a sec. How do I know what I know to say? Until we geek again. Until we geek again. Cheerio and huzzah! And a huge thank you to James Key. Please, please, please read the stuff, buy the stuff, support him. He's a freaking great guy. And who knows, if this works out well for him, maybe he'll come back, which would be kind of wonderful. I would love to see like a regular Writing Bandits thing. Maybe the two of us could talk to people and stuff. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, all right. Cheers all. Thank you much. See you soon. Bye.